Hi everybody, so this is going to be a review on the book Corset Magic, a fun guide to trim your waist and figure by Ann Grogan. And I have the digital version in PDF, so I'm sorry I don't have a physical book to show you guys, but I'll put a link down in the description directing you where you can buy the book yourself. I have the 2008 edition, and I bought it for $50, no shipping obviously because it was electronic, and it is 268 pages total in 2 different parts. So I'm going to start with what I think of it first, and then I'll go into the synopsis because this is going to be a rather long review, I can feel it. So basically, this book is the holy grail for anybody who wants to train. It has so much information in it. Yes, like $50 is a lot to spend on a book, but like think of it this way. If you were going to go out and spend $300 on a custom-made corset and you don't know how to waist train, and you find that you waist train wrong or you hurt yourself and you're turned off of corseting, then you just wasted $300. So why wouldn't you instead just buy a book and inform yourself on how to waist train, and then you can decide whether or not it's for you if you want to put the effort into it, because it is sort of a change of lifestyle. And then if you decide that you don't want to waist train, then you only spent $50 as opposed to $300 on a garment that you would never wear. I found this book a little bit difficult to read at times just because there was so much information in it. It's hard to properly categorize everything that's in the book, so I found that it jumped around a little bit, but it was fine in terms of like the language and everything. There were times that I wish it was more factual and less anecdotal. Ann Grogan teaches a lot of things in stories, and but then again, like, I read textbooks for fun, so that's just my opinion. I suspect that Ms. Grogan had used stories in her book, 1, to make it more fun and personable to read, and 2, just because there aren't a lot of like factual like case studies, medical studies that are done on waist training, and so a lot of the techniques that are learned for waist training are learned through personal experiences, either by Ms. Grogan herself or by her students or other people that she knows. While I was reading this book, I found myself editing the spelling and grammar throughout, just a force of habit, I guess, being a student. But the book is perfectly readable as is. I'm just kind of giving the spelling and grammar Nazis a heads up in that. One thing that I noticed, at least in the digital version of this, there are no page numbers in the index of the book. So that kind of leaves the index a little bit useless. I thought that maybe they left it out because it being a PDF, you would be able to do a search function on it. And there were a couple of times that I lost my place. I didn't bookmark it. And so when I went back to it, I couldn't find my place again. And so I tried doing a search of terms just to find my place again, but then I realized that the document is actually protected against that. So that's kind of frustrating. You could probably convert the files, but I'm just too lazy to do that. But the content, oh my god, like, there is so much information in this book. You could probably read it 3 times over and still get something new out of it each time. So I'm going to go over each part of the book now. Chapter 2 is dedicated to debunking the rumors that corsets are painful. Chapter 3, she discusses the different ways that you can train your waist down and help you lose weight using corsets. And then she gives some case studies of some of her former students who successfully lost weight and or inches, not just in their waist, but all over their body. So it's quite inspirational. In Chapter 4, Ms. Grogan gives the reasons why a Victorian hourglass underbust corset is the best corset for waist training, and she gives a list of 13 minimum requirements that she demands for her own waist training corsets for high quality. I have slightly different demands when it comes to my own waist training corsets, but I agree with all 13 of her requirements on some level or another. When I first read this list, I was like, whoa, because she has a freakishly fine attention to detail. I thought maybe she was going into, like, it was under a little bit of too much scrutiny, I thought, in the beginning, just because she was talking about how the binding was angled on the corset, and how long the stitches were, whether there was any skip stitches or anything. But as I became more experienced with corseting and corsets in general, I realized where the scrutiny came from. There were things that went wrong with some of my bought corsets that I never would have anticipated had I not read this book. So what's nice about these requirements that she gives, it not only gives a level of quality that corset purchasers can follow before they place their money in any corset maker's hands, but it also gives a sort of minimum bar of quality for corset makers so that they know what corset purchasers expect in a good quality garment. So I have used some of these requirements to sort of give myself a baseline of quality in the corsets I make for myself or for my friends and family. Apart from that, Ms. Grogan shows you how to choose a good corset maker, how to properly measure yourself for a custom-made corset. Not all of the measurements, but some of the ones that are most important to her. How to choose realistic goals, how to season your corset properly. Oh my gosh, guys, there's so much in here. Chapter 5, she talks about forming a customized waist training plan, either designing one yourself or you can actually pay Romantasy to look at your stats and look at your lifestyle and make a waist training program for you. She goes into more detail for goal setting, ways to stick with your program. Like with any other body training program, the most successful people always do specific things such as keeping a journal, ways to like keep to the system, like having a reward system, having a coach or a buddy to keep them on track. Just basically a strict regimen, and she shows you how to do that. Chapters 6 and 7 are all about food, which ones that are good to eat, which ones are to avoid. She talks about, well, I mean, it's pretty obvious that fruits and vegetables are good for you in general, but she talks about how that plays into waist training better, and she talks about adding more fiber, both soluble and insoluble fiber. She talks about meat if you are a meat eater. She talks about fats. She talks about what foods can cause cramping when you're in a corset or once you take the corset off. She dedicates so much space to drinking water. There's a collection of recipes that she has at the end of the book. Chapter 8 is on exercise. She talks about the muscles involved in posture, and she gives you stretches and toning exercises so that you can prevent atrophy in your core muscles. Chapter 9, she talks about how the organs are displaced when you're corseted. If you think my corsets and organs video is detailed, you have absolutely no idea. She goes into how each and every organ is affected, how each section of each organ is affected, either directly or secondarily. Ms. Grogan consults the medical doctors who give their opinion on how the organs and bones are affected. She shows you how different corset shapes dictate where and how much the organs and ribs move. Say in an hourglass corset compared to a wasp-waist corset. She gives diagrams and x-rays. There is so much detail in here. Chapter 10 focuses on some of the symptoms you may experience as a result of corset training, such as trouble going to the bathroom, breathing, skin problems. I actually kind of took a step back when I read this through again. I mean, I glossed over it when I first got the book, but when I was reading through this book again to prepare for the review, I was kind of really taken aback that how much my physical effects of corseting videos and this information overlapped so much. And of course, I mean, this book came first, but I just thought it was really cool how we came to similar conclusions about different parts of the body through similar experiences and also through different resources, such as she noticed that her blood pressure rises slightly when she wears a corset, whereas I first started with reading that article, the exercise article on weight training and using a training belt. Ms. Grogan and I both had experiences with pinched nerves. We both had a problem with our left hip, although her problem was more a problem of the anterior femoral cutaneous nerve, whereas mine was more the posterior femoral nerve. Ms. Grogan also mentions that she will not take on any waist training students under the age of 21. This video is kind of getting long, so I'm going to finish up a little bit quickly. Chapter 11 is for troubleshooting. Chapter 12 is maintaining your small waist after you've reached your waist training goal. So in that chapter, she focuses on maintenance corseting. And in Chapter 13, she clarifies the difference between tight lacing and any other type of lacing. Chapter 14 is dedicated completely to genetic males, either those who are transgender, who want to give themselves a more feminine figure, or males who want to keep their male figure but still have a smaller waist. How males' experiences and goals may differ from female or genetic females. Like I said, in the back there's an index, but there are no page numbers. There's also a list of contributing authors and other people mentioned in the book. albeit no page numbers there either. There's a small list of corset makers, although some of them don't exist anymore. There's a glossary of terms. There's a small waist training chart so you can actually print that off and keep track of your own waist training. And of course my camera battery had to die right at the end of this review, go figure. Anyway, I like the bibliography at the end of this book. Ms. Grogan lists some of her sources of information in case you want to do any further reading, which I always like to do. So overall, like I said, this book is kind of like the Bible when it comes to waist training. If you are sort of on the fence about whether you want to start waist training or not, and you haven't bought your corset yet, buy this book first, buy your custom corset second. Do your research, educate yourself, then make an informed decision whether or not you want to start corset training. Honestly, I could probably talk for hours about this book, but I will wrap it up here. I think this book is a must-have for anybody who is really serious about corset training and is willing to add corsets into their lifestyle. If anybody else has this book and would like to add to this review, feel free to post a comment below or post a video response. And if there are any other corset books out there that I haven't reviewed yet and you'd like me to review, please let me know. And I will talk to you all later, okay? Bye.
Thank you so much for watching. If you're interested in seeing any of my other corset book reviews, you can check them out here. And if you're interested in any other corset videos, don't forget to subscribe.